Welcome everybody back with another 505 interview series. Glad that you're all here. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we get started with our amazing guest tonight, who I'm glad I was able to finally track her down and book her. She's a very busy lady, and she kept blowing me off, and I had to be like, oh, look, I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get her on. So for tonight, before we get started, make sure down in the description or in the pin to the comment section there, go click that Linktree link. Go support my advertisers, sponsors, and preferred retail partners. They help continue to keep the content going on the show, and your support goes a long way in making sure we continue expanding out the programming out there. So whether you're looking for sticks, you're looking for accessories, I got you covered on multiple angles there. Use the exclusive promo codes only available to my viewers out there to save yourself some coinage. I'm here for you because I'm a man of the people, here giving back to you, the people. So go take advantage of that. Save some money. Go support some great brands and great retail shops as well that I've worked out deals with. So, my guest tonight, not only is she my friend, but she's also a veteran, a content creator, an educator, an advocate for veterans, an advocate for suicide prevention, an advocate for domestic violence victims. She does it all. She finds time to put all of this together and also try and interact cigars and the cigar culture and the cigar community in with all of this to help bring people together, bring the communities together out there. So I'm excited to have her on and talk with her about her life and what she's really doing to make the community a better place. So without further ado, we bring on Maddie Peterson. Of course, you may know her, aka Miss CigaRoyal. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Mwah, mwah. I'm out of here. That was too much. How am I supposed to follow that act?
Well, I just hand it over to you. And for anybody out there who may not know a little bit about you, you can, and of course they're here showing up for you already. Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, I want to first and foremost thank you so much. And honey, you didn't have to like beg me to come on. It's just that we just whenever we're able to link up, we've been so busy and stuff. It's my honor and privilege to be here. And of course, I watch you all the time. I'm really proud to see the growth and everything that you do for our community. And it's just it's been a mutually beneficial relationship, friendship that we've had. We've been cheering each other on for years, and thank you so much for making time for me.
Oh, you're welcome. It sounds better if you're a person in demand. Anyway, man, I had to beg her. She's just such a busy person, it just sounds better.
Not too busy for you, friend.
Glad to have you on. You've really accomplished a lot out there, from working in the industry and sales and brokerage to now operating an education class out there, getting people involved in the community on top of the advocating that you do for domestic violence victims, for veterans, and for suicide prevention out there. How do you find all this time to do all this?
Well, to be honest with you, I think part of it is it doesn't hurt that I have ADHD, which I found out just 2 short years ago. So it explains so much in my life that I did not know. But, the saying goes, when you want somebody to do something, you find the busiest person around because they'll find a way to manage the time to make it happen. And I have so many diverse interests and passions that, I just think it's important to pursue the things that actually charge you and bring you joy that you can actually, make a difference in. And so I've just been really blessed and fortunate to actually, be able to do that.
Does some of it come from the structure provided by the military, that you kind of know that if you structure everything out for the day, you can get all this fit into a day and be efficient, fast and efficient, and still provide quality service to everybody?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but not only am I a veteran, I'm married to a veteran, mother to a veteran, daughter of a veteran, granddaughter, niece, and cousin to veterans.
Wow. So the military blood runs thick throughout your family, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those things that um, has actually helped me actually stay more engaged with everything that I do. But you're right; it actually helped get me organized and had me understand what my place was as far as like what my skills are, what I'm good at, and the structure, of course, is something that I can't live without. I have to have that structure.
I, I kind of run my life like that too. I'm not one that was in the military, but I have plenty of family members who have been spent time in the military. My house was never ran like a boot camp or like a military camp, but I find that I am more constructive with living my life by structure. I know what I know what I got to do every day, at what time I do it, and I do it. And I try not to deviate off of that scheduling that
Hmm.
that I have, because I feel like I feel lost when I get off of that scheduling. If something changes and my schedule's now thrown off, I'm in a terrible mood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It also, it's I've got kind of an organized chaos because I have just a different kind of, I guess I'm neurodivergent. Somebody told me, I'm not sure what that means, all these different terminologies that we've gotten over the years. But, some people might look and say like, okay, you've got an absolute mess going on. I'm like, dude, I know what's up. I know what I'm doing. So, don't worry about it. I got this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we all get like that at times. Well, we understand the mess and the
I,
clutter. Like, I know exactly where all that's at. I don't have to look, don't bother looking. I know where to go.
mm-hmm.
So uh, I know the answer to a lot of these questions I'm going to ask, but because there are a lot of people out there who may not know these, I'm going to ask, and I'm sorry if some of them may be repetitive, or some of the people who are watching in the chat may know this, just because we all have kind of I see a lot of the people in the chat, we all kind of have a personal relationship with each other, so we know a lot of these things, but there's a whole new audience out there. But
Sure.
uh, talk about how you got started in with cigars, because I find that I find it fascinating when you tell this story. Like, I feel like every time you tell it, I'm listening to it for the first time.
Well, thank you. And it's actually interesting because you did actually touch on my military service first, and actually that is how I got started in cigars. So, and honestly, my family's from Puerto Rico, so I actually had some kind of knowledge of cigars and culturally speaking, but I didn't smoke my first cigar until I was in the military. And in the military, in all branches, we have a saying that's "smoke them if you got them." And it normally related to smoking cigarettes. And I have never enjoyed the smell of cigarettes or ever tried. Well, I've tried them when I was like 12 years old, but that's a whole nother story. But
I think most of us did.
so I was stationed in Alaska, and I was one of the few women in our flight, and the guys were like taking all these breaks. And one of the guys was just like, "Well, we're out there. We're gonna go smoke them." And I was just like, "Well, I want to go out there." And they were like, "Well, do you want a cigarette?" And I was like, "No." And one of the guys says, "Well, I've got cigars. Do you want to try one of those?" And I said, "Sure, I'll try a cigar." So I don't remember what cigar I smoked, but I do remember the feeling of camaraderie and the we spent more time than we should have been out there, but it was just such a great experience that I wanted to do it again. And so the fellas, not long after that, wanted to go to a smoke in a lounge. But when we went to the lounge, I was the only woman with them, and I was told by the lounge owner that I could not smoke there, that it was not a female activity. So this was in the late 90s, and of course, me being a newly introduced cigar smoker, I was absolutely like shocked and appalled, and I was honestly pissed off. I was like, I can wear the military uniform, but I can't smoke a cigar here. And they were like, "Yep, that's just how it is." And considering in the 90s, I couldn't get a bank account up in Alaska unless I had a man sign for me, co-sign for me. So, those were like crazy times. And even though people talk about stuff like that couldn't happen, I mean, I remember And it actually encouraged me to actually stay the course with cigars. And what happened was I didn't smoke for like maybe 15 years. And then some of my friends when I moved to Arizona were like, hey, we're going to smoke cigars. And I remembered that experience. So I was apprehensive, but I went ahead and smoked, and I've been smoking for the last 12 years consistently. It's just, it's a different world. And it's part of my therapy, which, of course, about with my mental health advocacy, and we'll get on that, I'm sure. But that's basically how I started, was that first first fortunate incident about trying it and then being turned away. I think I've actually taken that as a challenge.
I think a lot of people would take that as a challenge when you say you're not allowed in here, as if we're in the old West and it's just some crotchety bar owner. Your kind's not allowed in here. Well, I'm not. Well, I'll show you. And I think that your success through what you've done over the last 4 or 5 years within the community has, well, showed that guy, that you not only do you belong here, but you probably deserve to be running the place.
Aw, thank you for that.
On that, yeah, a lot of people use cigars as a form of therapy. I know I do. We all have stress in our life. We all go through stuff. We all deal with stuff. But when did it hit you that by sitting back and burning, a fermented plant matter, that it provided you with some relief, some therapy that you didn't know you needed?
Well, funny story. So I was actually also diagnosed with depression late in my life. When I was younger, I was my mother told me that I was just dramatic, which I'm sure that there's an element of that. If you see my style, I guess there's an element of drama in there. But honestly, depression was something that I was actually trying to navigate and function through, and I did not have any idea until I was an adult. And so what happened was they put me on different kinds of medication, and none of the medication actually made me feel normal. They actually made me feel somewhat like I was losing it. They would make me like a zombie. Some would make my hair fall out. I'd lose my appetite. Some made me nauseous, gave me headaches. So, I actually, one day I was with some friends, and I was kind of like I call it riding the wave. I was riding that wave of depression, and I didn't really want to smoke, but my friends were smoking, and I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and smoke. And I remember sitting there, and as I smoked the cigar, I realized that it was making me feel better, that my gears in my brain were slowing down. I was actually able to like breathe and focus and relax. And I didn't even have to partake in the conversation, but I was starting to feel normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I actually was able to like completely ride that wave and actually feel better. And so afterwards, I was like, well, I don't know if that was a placebo or if it was an accident. But, more and more, I started hanging out with some friends that actually smoke cigars. And I realized that whether I was having, a wave or anything like that, if I was actually being okay, if I had a stressed out day, if I was overwhelmed, frustrated, or anything like that, just by sitting down and having a conversation with people smoking, that I was actually, able to relax.
Seems to do that, and I agree with you. I don't know if it is a placebo effect or if it's just the people around you, that you're comfortable with those people and you're doing an activity that's just kind of chill and relaxed, that it really allows your mind to close. And I agree. I can't figure it out, but I do know that when I don't smoke for a couple of days out there, I really get that antsy in the pantsy feel. And,
I absolutely understand that. Yeah.
Really
When the days are too hot.
Very short. Yeah, I get very short with people, and I'm like, I just need to go. Now I don't know if that's because we've been doing this for so long that it's just the effect of being without the nicotine and whatnot. But I also kind of chew enough tobacco throughout the day that I know it can't be just the nicotine. I think it's something else.
Well, there's a ritual involved, right? So, like with your ritual, like whether you decide to listen to music or just relax by yourself or you go meet up friends, there's a ritual involved where I happen to love accessories, and I'm sure that you've noticed that with everything that I post. But like, I'll decide what cigar lighter I'm going to use, what cutter, then I actually select my cigar, and then I select what I'm going to drink. A lot of times it's just water. It might be coffee and it might be a cocktail, but regardless of what that is, it actually is starting to put me in a mood. You know what I mean? I'm actually creating my own mood. And I might go out there with my tablet and watch a Netflix series or listen to some jazz or hip hop, neo soul, whatever just suits me at the time. And creating that vibe, I guess, puts me in a mental state, which takes me away. It's like that old school Calgon, right? Instead of Calgon, take me away, I'm like, cigars, take me away.
Lou in here goes, he says, when I smoke, I know I'm not doing anything for an hour and a half, and that feeling of relaxation is priceless. And
Yeah.
I agree. Well, it used to be like that, but now having the kid, I kind of got to get it in when I can, because
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, it's not as often as it used to be.
I feel that. And living in living in Arizona now, I should say, with 115-degree weather and it's so damn hot outside, you have to make a conscious decision. Am I going to drive to a lounge? I mean, we don't smoke inside. It gives one of my daughters migraine headaches, even with an air filtration system. So to be respectful, I try to do it outside or when it's late at night, or right now I'm in the garage. So
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, by any means necessary.
I don't smoke in my house. I could. It's my house. I own it, but I don't. That's why I kind of built the lounge out here, is to, kind of a relaxation and get away. I got a TV so I can chill and watch a show if I want. I don't have to worry about anything. And I think that's the one thing that in a ritual is that like Lou said, I know that for at least 90 minutes, I ain't got nothing. I got nothing I need to do. I can, if I want to turn off my phones, I can. And who's going to stop me?
Oh, it's cheaper than going to a therapist, in my opinion.
Oh, it is. I have over the last 4 or 5 years gotten better advice and better therapy from the community in a whole than I have ever going to a therapist, whether it be on a live or whether it be calling somebody on the phone, and the fact that if we don't hear from some people for a couple of days, we're calling them because it's like, you okay? We're always checking on each other, but I feel I've gotten the best therapy than I ever got going to an actual therapist, because it's like I'm talking with a group of people who kind of know what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through, or they have gone through it themselves and they've worked themselves out of it. And there's just like, okay, it's really, I think that part of it is the smoke, but part of it is it's the people, because we got so many people in our community that nobody knows about but us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I honestly believe cigar people are some of the friends we haven't yet met.
But when we meet these people, it's like we've known them our whole entire life, and it's like I just met this person like 6 months ago.
Oh yeah, and Daniel, some people that we had never even known, when we see each other at the PCA, it's like we've known each other forever. It's not weird. We just go up and go like, oh my God, we hug, we start talking. It's like we've been hanging out forever. It's not unusual.
Yes, it's the family you've been able to create from Miss Lee there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we created that family. It's just we've kind of all what I will say, yes, we are a family, but we've kind of all adopted each other into our lives.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Well, and regardless of our background, we all have that common love for smoking cigars. So that's always a great, standing point for us to actually look at and say, regardless of our background, political affiliation, or financial status, or what we do for a living, we can actually find that common ground over the love of the cigar. And I think that alone just brings us together in a way that we can actually relate to each other. I mean, there's conversations that we could have starting from the cigar, and it fleshes out into something more meaningful. And that includes making connections and networking and, building those relationships.
Yes, I think so. And is that what got you interested in wanting to get into cigar education?
Well, thank you for asking. After I was smoking cigar, after I got out of the military, I became an 8th grade reading teacher. And COVID actually killed that because I was going to end up having 42 kids in the class by myself. And as you can imagine, 42 12 and 13-year-olds. It took quite a strain on me mentally. And that was just not a situation I wanted to be in. It was no longer making me happy. I didn't feel like I was actually where I needed to be. And don't get me wrong, I loved my kids and I love working with them, but it was just one of those things where I knew I had to move to the next level. So I found myself leaving teaching after COVID, so like 2021-ish. And I still always had a passion for knowledge and education. I'm big on reading. I love audiobooks. I love reading. I commit to either reading or doing audiobooks every day. Even if it's like while I'm washing dishes, I'm listening to an audiobook, or, I crack one open and I read a chapter. And it's for fun or for knowledge. I do a combination of both, whatever, feels right. And as I was smoking in different cigar lounges, I became a cigar broker working for some boutique brands. But as you know, the challenge with being a broker, which some people ask me all the time, is that you actually can't really expect to make money for a long time. Like, it could be years, because you only get money once an account is opened. And then you get usually about 10%, 10, maybe 15% of whatever that is made. And so if it's a newer brand that you're having a hard time opening up accounts, you literally are getting, from many brands, no gas money, no per diem, no money for lunch. So you're like out there, 5 days a week, visiting lounges, building relationships, and you're not making that money. And I found myself saying, I'm actually in the hole. I'm actually in the hole trying to be a broker and promote somebody else's brand. I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'm actually working so hard for other people and spending money, and I'm not making any. So what's going on here? And as I was doing that, I was still going to lounges and meeting people. And I found that there were especially some women that they would see me going there by myself, and they might be with a partner, and they'd say, can I ask you a question? Or I'd notice them like turning gray, and I'd say, are you okay? And they'd say, I don't know what I'm doing, and this is terrible. It's hurting my lungs. I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to inhale. And I would see like their partner maybe cut it and light it and not tell them anything, just, trying to figure it out. And so then I found myself kind of one-on-one saying, well, let me show you how to light that. And this is why you do this. And I started having more and more people refer other people and say, oh, if you have questions, go to Maddie. So would have people, I'd smoke in different lounges. There's 80 lounges in Arizona. I'd go to different lounges and people would walk up to me and say, hey, I know who you are. I follow you on Instagram. And my friend told me that you could show me about how to smoke a cigar. And that kind of planted an idea in my mind on how I could marry the concept of education, my passion for education and my passion for cigars, and move past being a broker and actually do something that I felt that I could actually contribute meaningfully to other, to build our culture in a positive way. But it also was a reminder for me, and I'm trying not to get emotional, I'm an emotional person. When I was first smoking and I was denied the opportunity to be in a lounge, how I taught myself everything by asking questions and having the boldness that I do have of not being afraid. But not everybody is confident enough to ask questions without feeling dumb. And let's face it, a lot of people are very condescending when you ask a question, even whether you're a man or a woman. Some people are very condescending and be like, how long have you been smoking? Or why are you smoking that? Or why'd you use that? And some people sometimes get a little snarky and they don't realize that could actually deter people from enjoying the cigar smoking experience. So that made me create Cigars Unwrapped. And so I do it for private and public groups. I also host cigar events. So I did like a birthday party, a 50 birthday party for 85 people. I have a cigar butler, which I love, love, love. And I go and I would set up the cigar butler and, help people cut and light and explain to them why they do, X, Y, and Z to enjoy the cigar.
That's awesome. And is it mostly women that are joining in on your classes or events, or is it being more of a mixed group, men and women?
You might be surprised, but I'm usually half and half. And the other interesting thing to me is I have seasoned smokers also come to my class. I have people that have been smoking 15, 16 years that attend my class. In the beginning, I had a couple that would be like, well, I'm just coming to support you, Maddie, but I don't know what you could possibly teach me. And I'll be like, okay, well, thank you for joining in. And I'll explain to them, I took things I learned the hard way and I put it into a 1-hour class, but I also added in there, I fleshed it out with history, some interesting facts. So I focus on what would interest anybody about cigars. And one of the things that I tell them is, like, if somebody's asked me why should do this class, I'll tell them whether you choose to smoke cigars or not. Like for this one networking group that was interested, they were like, we're interested, but tell me in 2 minutes why I should book an education class with you. I said, okay, even whether you smoke cigars or not, whether you select to do that or not, if you actually understand how to cut and lighten a cigar and understand the basic concepts of a cigar, then you can actually join that conversation. Because what happens is a lot of business opportunities take place outside of the boardroom or in the office. And so people might go to the golf course, or people might go to, let's say, after hours to even a cigar bar, and they'll have conversations and build those relationships and networking. And next thing you know, somebody made a handshake deal over a cigar. And if you weren't part of that conversation, you weren't able to network or actually, engage in those opportunities. And so they've already booked 2 classes with me. Each one was 25 people each. I always am very conscious about including, I actually take my own lighters and cutters and ashtrays and whatnot. And they can do one of 2 things. They have a different price point for whether I include the cigar or not. I also include a cigar journal that I designed so that first-time smokers can actually maybe use that as a tool, if they choose to actually start understanding which cigars they like or don't like.
Okay. Like, I still journal. 24 years later, I still journal all my cigars. Doesn't matter. It's just something I enjoy to go back and look back, especially to see how my palate has changed over 20-some years.
Yeah.
On stuff that it may have been 20 years ago was the last time I smoked it, but I got my notes for it, and how's my palate changed? Did I like this cigar when I smoked it then? Because I really like it now, and I've always been big on the journaling aspect of it. I know a lot of people make fun of me because I have 14 4-inch binders filled with all my paper notes of every cigar that I smoke, and
I think that's beautiful.
And
because
you're
you're
like, well,
actually
you should digitize it, but I'm like, why?
Right. Well, but you're actually you're exploring and you're dealing with your own journey. So everybody has a different way of doing things. So they can laugh if they want to, but I bet you that you've actually considered, by writing things down, you've actually learned about yourself. You've also seen how you've evolved. Where some people just take it cigar by cigar, and that's fine. But you actually have made it into kind of an art.
Well, a few months into smoking cigars, I started just kind of writing down notes on things notes of just things I was picking up and cigars that I liked and didn't like, and why I didn't like the cigar, or was it the taste? What was it? And then that just kind of evolved into every cigar I smoked. It was just like, okay, all right, I smoked this cigar before and I liked it, but I don't like it now. And there's something new I'm picking up, And it was just more of it was done as a reference guide for me, and it kind of turned, like everything, obsessions. And
Well, I'll submit something to you, Daniel. When we do things like that, when we keep track of the cigars that we smoke and whatnot, like for me, sometimes people will say, like, why did you smoke that cigar? Or why do you try all these different cigars? You're always smoking something different. It's not always the same thing. Well, to me, I think it's really important, especially because I focus on cigar education, to be able to, if someone asks me, well, I really like this cigar, like let's say this Rocky Patel, and if I haven't smoked a lot of cigars, I might not be able, and if I haven't smoked that particular cigar, I can't give them a recommendation on what would be in their wheelhouse, right? So, like in the same token, I have actually tried an acid. Acid is not for me. I've actually smoked a couple only because, and I have people, when I was smoking it one time, some of my friends were like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, acid is the number one selling cigar, just so you know. Number two, you'd be surprised who smokes acid, so no judgment. And I don't judge people on what they smoke. I think we should normalize people smoking whatever the hell they want to smoke. But I smoked it and other cigars because I think it's important for me to have a reference point. So if somebody says, I really like this cigar, I could say, well, if you like the Padron, you might like the Olmec by Foundation. It has the same type of earthiness and richness to it. And you know what I mean? That's an example. So by keeping track of the cigars you've smoked, whether you choose to be a cigar repeater or not, or keep it on a regular basis in your humidor, I think it's also really great for all of us with our growth and our journey in cigars to actually just experiment and try different things. I mean, how else do we expand our cigar palette if we always smoke the same thing? And how boring would it be if we always reach for the same cigar?
Yeah, I agree. I do have a go-to humidor, and it's got 7 or 8 different cigars in there. That if I know I don't want to think about anything and I just want to chill out with a smoke, I can grab one of those and I'm fine. But I also, where I'm at, creating content, what I'm doing, I'm constantly out trying new things, and so I'm always trying to keep on top, with what's the next it brand, and
Yeah.
so I'm trying everything I can get my hands on, whether it's something that I'm based upon what is the makeup of the cigar. I'm like, I know I'm not going to like this because it's not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But I'm going to smoke it anyway, and
Yes.
and
I love supporting smaller brands too, because you know what? Brands like, and I have mad love for My Father's and Oliva and the established brands. But let's face it, we want our industry to continue to evolve and grow. And one of that takes boutique cigars. And I think that's why I'm such a huge advocate and smoker of boutique cigars. Because I think during COVID, what was one good thing was we started doing more smoking visually online with people. And that's where that whole phenomena occurred with all of us getting on Zooms and creating groups and whatnot. But I'll be honest with you, there were some brands that I got my hands on and I smoked, and I had DMs from people saying, where in the world did you get that? I have never heard of that brand. And so then we started having people, of course, we would order cigars and have them delivered to us. And I think that, I wouldn't say I was the only one that did it. A lot of people did it. And I think it was a very important it was an important thing for us to do, was to actually not only smoke the different cigars, but actually advocate for them and show other people what we've got. Not everybody has cigar lounges near them. Mm-hmm. So maybe ordering online is the only way they can get their hands on boutiques.
Yeah, that was the reason, and when I decided to make to take the content in 2019 from just now smoking photos to actually doing something else with it in 2019. I wanted people to go to that other side of the humidor, because I know that 98% of what I smoke is small batch boutique brands you've probably never have heard of. And that's just kind of what I have been into for the last 20 some years. Yeah. That I wanted people to go to the other side of that humidor. I wanted them to, there are diamonds in the rough of brands you've never heard of But
Yeah.
you gotta have tunnel vision walking in there to forget about that big, huge display and all of this fanciness that's catching your eye, and go to that section and actually sit down and look. And I wanted people to do that, and I wanted to introduce people to small brands that I enjoyed. And
Oh yeah, well we're kind of like magpies, right? We see stuff that's shiny and we're like, I want that.
yeah,
Without actually, some people I know for a fact, and it still happens even for seasoned smokers, they'll pick up a cigar based on the branding, which, of course, is something that we do. We're visual people. Humans are visual. So you see something that attracts your eye and you're going to actually grab it. Not everybody looks at what the wrapper, binder, and filler, and a lot of people don't even know what the hell that means. So even if they might read a review and they'll say, well, it's got, notes of cashew, and it's kind of earthy, and it's got notes of fig, and some people will be like, well, that sounds great. They have no idea what that means, and they're not necessarily going to pick up those same notes. It's
that's right.
subjective.
You have to do the correct half wheel review on the cigar. Yes, the clubbed baby seal fat was rendered perfectly. You could really taste the fear of the seal on the palate. The Antarctic cinnamon tickled the nostrils with a certain sense of urgency.
The taste of roasted chicken on a spit.
Exactly. Yes. I kept getting on my tongue sense of forest floor, and I'm like, who's licking a forest floor that knows what that tastes like? All right, that's right. I don't know. Endangered white rhino tusk. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I couldn't tell you the difference between Vietnamese cinnamon and Congo cinnamon. But whatever.
But it sounds hella good, and you want it.
I'm like, okay, I couldn't tell you that cinnamon is cinnamon. All right, I could tell you that difference, but yes, I get it. And some people get caught up with the reviews, but for younger smokers, I always told younger smokers, newer smokers, don't anticipate your smoking experience to be the same as mine. I've spent 20 some years honing my palate in on that. Now, your smoking experience may differ. You may not pick up many of those same flavors that I pick up on it. So you need to work on setting your palate so you know where your palate sits. Are you a savory smoker?
I don't read reviews for that reason. I honestly don't read reviews. And one of the reasons why is maybe from my teaching experience as a teacher. Once you've actually painted a picture in somebody's mind on what they're going to expect, they're going to their brain is going to fill in the blanks about what they think they taste versus what they know they taste, right? So how many times have you said to somebody like, oh, with this cake, you're going to taste this, that, and the other? And it's like, bullshit. You didn't have lemon in that cake, but you told somebody there was lemon. They'll be like, oh yeah, that lemon was nice and tangy. And you're like, there was no damn lemon in there. But people it's almost like that Mandela effect, right? So I think that, in my opinion, of course, this is Maddie's 2 cents here. Not that reviews are bad. I think reviews are very subjective. They can be a useful tool and they suit a certain purpose. But I think for the common everyday smoker, or even somebody as myself, I don't want to go in there with a preconceived notion about what notes I'm going to get, because I want to actually be able to sit there and enjoy the cigar. When it's a new cigar, I always drink water with it, so I get the more natural experience. And not everybody understands that whatever you drink will affect what you smoke. And I'll give you a perfect example. Years ago, a friend of mine had given me a nub by Oliva. And he was just like, I swear by this cigar in the morning. Have you ever had it? And I was like, no, I've never had that. And he said, well, let me give you one to try it. Well, I didn't think much about it. I mean, this was years ago. And I happened to have I think it was an IPA beer. It was like a Leinenkugel or something. And I smoked the cigar and I absolutely hated it. And I was just like, bruh,
very
that's your favorite cigar?
Very
and he goes, he said it was like, I can't even explain what it was. It was like stale cardboard. And so I was like, bruh, I appreciate the cigar, but it really is not for me. And he's just like, you didn't like it? Like, what did you drink with it? And I was just like, I think I had a Leinenkugel with with orange slice in it. And he was just like, no, you can't. The citrus is going to affect. And that's when I really first started paying attention to how the cigar and the drink need to complement each other. Otherwise, they'll compete with each other. So that's when that light bulb came on, and I got that concept.
Yeah.
So I tried the cigar again with a carajillo. Now, carajillo is one of my favorite drinks, my favorite cocktails. It's equal parts of vanilla vodka, espresso, and espresso liqueur shaken. So it's almost like a vodka iced coffee. And I love, love, love that with cigars. And I tell you, when I had that nub with that carajillo, it was like, angels open. No,
Yeah.
angels started singing, the sky opened up, and like everybody was singing Kumbaya in my mind. No, actually, it wasn't that dramatic, but it was actually really good.
Lou chimes in. He goes, I think if you find a reviewer with a similar palate as yours, you may get turned on to some good stuff. And yes and
That's a
no,
fair
but
point.
also, I know plenty of people who are out there who have a similar palate to mine, but, we don't always necessarily agree on some of the cigars out there. But yes, I do agree, and I know that a lot of people who found my channel when I was doing reviews out there found it simply based because it's a cigar that they smoked and they had a similar experience. So similar palate, like, and yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree and disagree with that, Lou. I do think you're right. It may turn you on to stuff, and you may be more adventurous to want to try something new because they have a similar palate to that. But you also have to take into a fact that that's strictly based on their palate's perspective, and your smoking experience may differ.
Right. But it's just like anything else. Like, let's say, like, I don't like eating certain sweet candies. Like, I don't like Starburst or Laffy Taffy and that kind of thing. So, of course, my palate is going to swing towards different things that I might like. I like blueberry scones. I might like poppy seed muffins. I like something different.
Fancy.
So my eating, not necessarily. I mean, a little Debbie cake. I can't say no to a little Debbie cake, but that's why I don't keep them in the house. But your what you like to eat also is an indicator of what you might like to smoke. I honestly don't like cigars that are really strong pepper based, because to me it feels like you got punched in the face with pepper every time you inhale, and I can't enjoy it. And I'll give you actually a great story that's connected to that. So I'm still learning how to retrohale, believe it or not. And I want to learn. I'm intrigued. I mean, I have done it, but I can't really do it on command like some people can. And so I had a friend one day that was showing me how to retrohale and explaining it to me. And at the time I was smoking a cigar by the Black Label Trading Company. And so I'm thinking in my head, as he's talking, I'm thinking in my head the steps on how to retrohale. And I accidentally retrohaled with no warning. And that pepper bomb, when it hit through my nostrils, I swear it was like I thought my nose was going to explode. And I immediately backed up from the table. And then I'm like, I need a neti pot. I was just like, my nose was on fire. It was like the worst thing ever. And I think now, because I hesitate, I think my nose is just like, nah, bitch, you are not going to retrohale, because remember what happened last time?
When I was doing reviews, so I did a review on one of the AJ sticks, and it was an exclusive stick that he had manufactured. And it on the palate, it was very strong pepper. Very, 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 very strong pepper. I said, but for you guys, I got to give you the full review on this. I said, I'm gonna do a retro on this cigar. I am probably going to regret it. And oh my, like I turned red. I felt like my throat was closing on me. It was so like somebody took a ton of black pepper, grinded it up, and I just sat there and I was doing lines of it. I was just like, oh my.
I'm triggered just thinking about it.
Oh, my eyes were red. I had tears coming down my eyes. I'm like, this was a bad idea. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
And people had a lot of fun with it, and they laughed.
no,
But
thank you.
I'm
No,
like, I
no.
had, but I had to do it for the content because I got to provide you with a complete review. As for smoking the rest of the stick, as we're going, I go, honestly, I can't tell you what this tastes like because everything just tastes like a mouthful of pepper to me at this moment. It's just my mouth is numb. Like I was talking and I was like starting to like just drool. My tongue was hanging out. I'm like, you.
Oh, I bet you that was really attractive.
You know, got away with it. But yeah, I get it. And retrohale's not for everybody out there. And
I'm still learning.
It's something you got to work your way into. I've had some terrible cigars that are great on the palate, terrible on the retro, and it's completely ruined my experience. And cigars that are not so great on the palate, but the retro's fantastic. And I'm like, okay, you know what? There may be something here, but for me, it's just something that it's second nature for me to do. That I don't think about it, but it has enhanced a lot of my experiences. And Lou, you know what? You are damn right. The things I'll do for views. That's right. I wanted the clicks. And so
damn it, I missed it. I would have had, listen, you would have been all over YouTube. I would have been like, check this out. You would have been like the Haktua girl.
I might as well. It was Haktuaing all over that cigar because I couldn't keep it. I
can't with you.
If I had this back then, it would have come in complete help. But I did
not.
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
Lou, I'm going to tell you this. I don't think there's such thing as too much because I think there are certain cigars out there that just the enhancement of everything plays effect. And my friend John Stewart owns Sagrado Cigars. He's working on a new cigar, and I went over to his house and I tried it. And the first retrohale I did, I said, "Oh my goodness, this is a fantastic cigar." And I told him, I go, "This is a retro lover's dream cigar." The flavors, just the change, how every time I retro, I'm picking up something new, whether it be chocolate or pepper or cinnamon or bread and butter. It's just, there's just something different in every retro on this. I go, this is an amazing cigar. And then I've been watching him on his press tour talking about the cigar and people just blowing up over how great the retro is on it. And I appreciate you, John, shouting me out, saying I'm the one who coined retro lover's dream as I was sitting on your porch out there on it. But yeah, I don't think there is a thing as too much on the retro. Manny, good to see you, brother. Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, what we're talking about, we were talking about, of course, smoking and things that we've learned and everything in my class. I am going to actually put my cigar class on Zoom. So I'm going to be offering that next month. I'm going to be advertising today. I've had so many people say, I'm not in Arizona, I want to take your class. And so, my main thing is I want to make a difference. I want to actually, help give information out. Like I said, I learned everything the hard way. I still encounter people that have been smoking, even for a while. Last week, a couple weeks ago, I saw a guy smoking a cigar, and I was watching him out of the corner of my eye, and he had cut it right above the band. And then he proceeded to lick the cigar as he's smoking it because it kept unraveling. And then I was just like, oh, wow, what's going on there with that cigar? And he's like, this happens every time I smoke. I love to smoke cigars, but the cigars always come apart. I guess I got to find some kind of glue or something. And I was like, well, I always try to present it in a way not to embarrass or be condescending because I know what it's like to feel like, you know what I mean? Feel uncomfortable when somebody approaches you awkwardly. And so I was like, so may I ask why you cut it right above the band? That's quite a bit that you're losing on your cigar. He's like, oh, well, my uncle taught me how to cut it that way. And of course, since his uncle taught him, he just continued doing it that way for the last 6 years and never questioned it because that's how his uncle did it. So to him, that's a normal way to cut a cigar. And he didn't, as they say, didn't know no better. So he says, well, what do you suggest? Your cigar seems to do just fine. And so the way I always describe it is, when you're cutting the cap of the cigar, what you do is that you cut it just like a little bit more than a contact lens. Just enough to cut the very tip of the cap, just a contact lens. And then you just open up the draw that way. And he was just like, well, next cigar I get, let me see what that's about. So about half an hour later, he went and got a cigar and he goes, can you show me? And I said, sure. So I showed him a trick that if you put the open back cutter on a smooth surface, you put the cap of the cigar on it and you clip it, it's going to clip just enough. So it was the best feeling to see this guy when he took his first 10 minutes of draws. He kept looking at me. His eyes got all wide and he goes, you just changed my smoking experience. He goes, man, it was so great to actually sit next to you. And, it's the only reason why I'm sharing that story. It's not that I'm like trying to fluff my feathers or anything like that, as they say in the South. I just think it's a great example about how, one person can actually, you don't realize what impact you can have, positive impact you can have on someone else by sharing some positive, just sharing something that might make a difference to them. And it cost me nothing to actually sit there and actually give him a little bit of what I learned the hard way and explain to him the why. And now he knows why his cigar was unraveling. He understands why he should only cut a little bit more than a contact lens. And now he can actually, be converted into a regular cigar smoker, somebody that enjoys that experience.
Yes, I agree. I have with new smokers out there, I've always recommended getting a perfect cut for them.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And when I introduce people from other communities who have interest and hit me up and I send them some cigars, I always send them a perfect cutter so that way they're not cutting too much and it gives them exactly what they need until they can garner that experience where they can use a guillotine cutter and know what they need after I throw it on the ground, what they need. So, I think that it's I think I love the way that you explain it. Somebody taught that to me a long time ago too, about putting it on the table to get the perfect cut. And I'm like, it makes sense. And as Lou said, yeah, no peacocking.
It's just, I guess, whether you're a new or seasoned smoker, I think a lot of us encounter people, I mean, myself included. Sometimes you feel a little intimidated in a certain situation. And I mean, I've seen people go into a lounge and some people might rib other people, tease them about what they're smoking. Like, you're smoking a sissy cigar, you want to smoke a real cigar. I still have people sometimes walk up and say, what are you smoking? And I'll point out the boutique cigar and they'll be like, oh, you need to smoke a big girl cigar, a real cigar. And they'll try to hand me something a little bit, like a Davidoff or Padron. And don't get me wrong, I like it. I like smoking those too. But to me, it's funny. It's amusing to me when I encounter people that are just like, oh, look at you smoking that little itty bitty cigar. It's, some people are really brand conscious and that's fine for them. But like I said, we should normalize people smoking whatever they like to smoke. And that goes for any level in your cigar journey.
I don't judge people on what they choose to smoke because I understand people like to smoke and they enjoy being the camaraderie of smoking, and whether it be budget wise, that the off brand, the factory smokes, the bundles, the Gurkhas, that's all they can afford. That's fine. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the cigar? Then that's all that matters. It don't matter what I think of it, but do you enjoy it? If you enjoy it, that's all that matters.
Well, and there's people, to be fair, there's also people that actually grab an expensive cigar and don't really smoke. And that because they'll take they'll smoke like a third of it. Oops, I think I'm freezing up. They'll smoke like a third of it and then they'll leave it in the ashtray. And I'm like, that's sacrilegious.
Yes, you should be banned for doing such a thing. As Maddie throws her phone all over the place.
Well, My phone's saying it's overheating, so I was closing some apps, and then it just kind of like acted crazy. So there's that.
Uh, yeah, I know that there are people out there, and I have learned over 20, 24, 25 years of smoking that you have the clout smokers out there that doesn't matter. The most expensive thing they can find, that's what they'll smoke, and they like to, and they want you to know that they are smoking this, and it's something that you probably can't have or afford. Then they're all
Yeah.
about that. You have the budget smoker that likes it. They don't really smoke anything other than budget type sticks, and that's
Yeah.
fine. And there's certain place. I think there's a certain place for all those people. The one thing that I found out early on in creating content was that a lot of people who work blue collar jobs like me tend to they like the fact that I showed off a different array of cigars that, yeah, we're blue collar. We do enjoy a nice, fancy, expensive cigar. We also like something cheap too. It doesn't matter. We're eclectic for anything smoking, and we kind of like what we like, and we kind of all have that price range level that we're comfortable with consistently smoking. And I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
Well, and it's funny that you should say that because, that touches on something that I did want to mention. So I know that there's people that actually kind of mock cigar influencers, if you will. So sometimes they'll roll their eyes when they say like, "Oh, you're a content creator," like, "Oh, you know, you don't know anything about cigars or whatnot." But what they don't realize, and I honestly don't care about that opinion. I mean, you have the right to have your own damn opinion. But when I encounter that there's women that are like, I saw some of the cigars you were smoking, and I was like intimidated when I first saw that cigar, and I didn't think I could smoke it. But I saw you with that cigar, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and grab that cigar. And damn it, I liked it. And so sometimes it just helps open other people's up to the possibilities of what they can try. There are some people that kind of go by that stereotype about like, if you have a first time smoker, especially if it's a woman, to give them an infused cigar. I'm not of that mindset. I believe that you can try them. You can give them a cigar that, by talking to them, you can kind of figure out what they might like. But, I might go with something lighter, like the Azúcar by Espinosa has that kind of like vanilla-ish flavored wrapper, but it has the natural tobacco. It is not infused cigar. Or I might give them a Charter Oak, which the Charter Oak has, a nice, light, medium tobacco, which is not going to be too overpowering, is not going to be, strong with any kind of pepper or any kind of notes that might scare them from their first experience. So, I think that there is a place for people like me that are, maybe started out as content creators. I do education. That's what I mainly actually am focused on. I do promote cigar brands. I'm not paid with any cigar brands. I just do it for the love of the culture and the industry. So when you see me putting out there a cigar, like I like this one cigar, I'm not saying I like it because somebody paid me to say that. I am not putting that on there because somebody sent me the cigars to say that. I have had people send me cigars that I didn't really care for, and I'm not going to put it on there like, oh, this is a great cigar. I might put it on there and say, this might be in your wheelhouse. It's not in my wheelhouse, but it might be in yours. So check it out. And then I might explain what I got from it. But I try to be very clear and honest because I think that's very important. I don't want to misrepresent what I'm putting out there and who I am. I am not, who you have. I am who I am. When you see me, and you've seen me at the PCA, I'm the same goofy person. I am not going to,
Yes.
I'm not going to pretend to be somebody else.
Every year you reintroduce me to your husband.
well, what's funny? Well, I do it more for him than for you, Danny. Because
I'm kind of one of those guys that you meet me once and you're like, okay, I remember this guy.
Well, he said he looks familiar, but I can't quite place him, and so he doesn't get on Instagram like hardly ever at all, or Facebook, and so he'll be like, I remember that person from the last PCA. I think now refresh my memory, And it's not that I'm dogging him. He doesn't keep up with, the social media at all. And so to him, when I introduce, he might say, I know that guy. And I said, hello, but who was he again? And then I'll say, oh, remember that you met him at the last PCA? We sat and did this and that. And he's got the cute little daughter. And he goes, oh, yeah, I remember. It's just a little nudge. But in the military, that was my job. I'd be the person to whisper to the commander, hey, that's the guy from such and such squadron that did blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay. So then he looks like he knows what he's talking about when he shakes his hand firmly and says, hello, Colonel so-and-so. It's glad to see you after that last blah, blah, blah. And he didn't remember him either.
Like, I'm glad I'm not an influencer. I am. It's not something that I understand that I may have some influence in whether you buy or not buy something, but that was never been my intention. It was to get you to try everything. Whether you think you'd like it or not, I still want you to try it. So I'm not that brain dead in knowing that I don't have some influence. I do, but I don't consider myself one. I consider myself a connoisseur. I consider myself just a fan of the league who enjoys sharing my experiences. And if you want to hang out with me on the journey, come on. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room. And we lost Maddie there. Her phone probably overheated. And I'm going to have to shut this door. The rain is coming down. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Hold on, people. Hold on. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, we will wait for Maddie to get back in since her phone probably overheated there. Lou, I love a Lancero and don't care what anyone thinks. Really, they just don't know real men smoke Lanceros. No, that's not true. Not at all. Lou, I am not a... I think everybody knows I am not a fan of the Lancero out there. But, look, I understand that there are people out there who do like them, and no judgment on my behalf on that. But, Lou, enjoy your Lancero. Smoke it. Don't, no judgment, man. And if anybody gives you crap over that choice, they just don't get it. And I think that you're just fine. And like, smoke whatever you want, smoke however you want, smoke whatever you like. No judgment from me on that. I don't feel that there's any need to judge anybody based upon the size of the cigar that they smoke or what they smoke. Because why? What does that accomplish? I don't think it accomplishes anything when you make fun of somebody because of what they're smoking. Just because that's not what you like. Who cares? Who cares? I don't care what you smoke. And you shouldn't care what I smoke. And but I'll tell you this, I'm probably smoking something that you're unaware of, and I'm going to introduce you to something, and you can determine whether you like it or not. But at the end of the day, why do you care? Why do you care what I smoke? I don't care what you smoke. You smoke what you like. Be happy within the community, and I think that a lot of that judgment comes from the higher class smokers out there who like to cast a lot of that judgment out there because people aren't sitting there smoking the $50 cigars. It's like, oh, look at what I got. Lou, completely. It's still high school BS. Yeah, who cares? Who cares? Go stay in your clique over there. Because I tell you, you're not going to be in the group I'm hanging out with, but I can damn well sure tell you the group I'm hanging with, we're having the most fun out of anybody there. And we got Maddie back, so let's bring her back in. Hey!
Sorry about that. I had to come inside and put out my cigar because my phone overheated, I guess, in the garage. Oops.
That's all right. I had to get up and shut the door because it is a torrential downpour.
It's mad hot. It's like 39 degrees humidity. And it's 105 degrees. So outside, it was like, I tried to go outside for like 10 minutes and my phone completely shut down. So I tried the garage, but I guess the phone said, screw you. So, so actually, normally when that happens, I put a package of frozen sausages back there. I, I used to have this little thing, like a little Iron Man for the back of my phone. So it will keep my phone cool. It's through Amazon. I do have my phone on an ice pack now. Thank you, Lou. I do. Um, but I have to get another one because basically it clamps onto the back of the phone and it keeps it cool while, it's letting it over instead of letting it overheat.
I found when last summer when Brandy and I were doing the Tuesday night shows on Instagram, I'd have to move and go over to the freezer over in the corner and put the phone in the freezer and stand there and smoke while we were doing the show because my phone would start to overheat. That's
an idea. I apologize for that glitch. My apologies, guys.
It's all right. It happens. You came right back, so
Yeah, I had to get that frozen ice pack and come back in. We're having a good chat.
So so while you were going, I was just talking about because Lou brought up judgment from people out there over people who smoke certain certain sizes of cigars, whether it be a Lancero or a Lonsdale or out there, so we were talking about that to me it seems that a lot of that judgment comes from the high end smokers out there, the clout smokers out there. That's where I see a lot of that judgment comes from. It's not coming from a lot of the other groups out there, but they're their own cliques, and you know people who are in those cliques just like I do, and there are people that we associate with because I think that they bring a lot of negative energy to the community and to the group, especially when you're with a group of people, because they like to make it all about them and all about look at what I got.
Right. And honestly, that's one of the things that I touch on in my class, because especially for some of the women that I talk to, they're like, yeah, this guy was teasing me because I was smoking this. And he was just like, oh, look at that poor little itty bitty cigar. And it's just like, mind your business. People need to just mind your own business. It's just, I told her, I said, don't pay attention to people that actually have anything to say because they really don't have anything to say. When you validate that, you're basically buying into their dumb shit. So they just want a reaction. And honestly, I think some of them just want to find something to say. And you know what I mean? It's like they don't know what else to say. So they figure that is a good starting point. And it's actually whatever.
Oh my goodness, we were able to get the queen out of bed to come and join us tonight? It's like 5 hours past her bedtime.
It is, but Anya knows because I'll say, the other day I was talking to Anya and Lola, as you know, because you were there for a little bit, and I was just like, hold on a second, my phone is overheating outside, let me get some frozen sausages. And then I came inside and I didn't have any frozen sausages, so I had an ice pack and a pack of peas, and so that had to work. So I need to just get my happy ass on Amazon and get that little Iron Man for the back of my phone again and make that happen until the heat kind of dissipates. We got about another month of this crap. Hi, guys.
It is coming down. Holy smokes.
We're supposed to have rain tonight here, too, in Arizona. But like I said, 39% humidity is insane with 105 degrees. It's not normally this kind of humid. So
I remember growing up in the desert in New Mexico.
Yeah, so I'm bummed I had to leave my cigar, but I mean, that's okay.
Yeah. I think that what you do with your classes is great. And I think anybody who's a smoker, regardless of where you are at in your journey, you can always learn something new. And you're never, even if you know it, I always find that I've forgotten something over the years.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of things have, or the way things have changed from when I started, and I don't think it hurts to have that refresher. plus you're meeting new people, new
Mhm.
friends, out there. So
Yeah. I think
it's
I think part of it is introducing them to the culture about what they'll expect when they're in the lounge, right? So if they're not a regular smoker, I'll be honest with you. I've had some guys sign up their girlfriends or wives for my class because their wives are like, I'll give you an example. I had a woman say, I don't understand why it takes Henry 4 hours at the lounge. I don't know how you do it. You guys smoking cigars that long. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, well, you should take my class and understand what that is all about. And she's like, well, I Googled women and cigars, and all I found was pictures of women, with a cigar between their boobs or doing X, Y, and Z. And so I can't picture what the lounge would be like. And I'm like, well, listen, sister, we're not over there licking each other's faces or riding a stripper pole. I mean, I'm sure there could be a lounge like that somewhere, but most lounges are pretty just chill, where you're just doesn't matter what your background is or what you're wearing or anything like that. You're having a good time over a cigar. And I explained to her that smoking a cigar easily takes an hour and a half, or 2 hours to smoke. And then when you add cocktails and conversation, 4 hours is nothing. I've been in a lounge for 10 hours, for an event. So she came to my class. Her first intention was just to actually I don't know, just kind of see what it was about, maybe see what was up with what he was doing. And let me tell you, she's a regular smoker now.
good. I think though that there. Now you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that a lot of women out there that see what their husbands do with the cigars and the camaraderie and how the bonding experience with other men and women, that there's an intrigue factor for a woman to want to, also be a part of that and to get involved, whether that be so to share time with her man, or whether it be to expand her horizons into a new craft or hobby out there. Am I wrong on that? For a lot of women?
No, actually, like she became a regular smoker because she said, I didn't fully understand and I felt intimidated by the whole process. And I thought it was kind of like just a dude thing. And she was like pretty stunned. I went into the lounge, there were like half the women were in the class, and she was just like, there's other women that smoke. And I was just like, yeah. And I honestly go to the lounge by myself. I don't have to have anybody with me, but my experience is different. I do have friends that will say, I want to smoke a cigar, but I don't want to go by myself. And then I'll accompany them. But I happen to be the kind of person that I don't wait to see the energy in the room. I bring my own energy. And I just go in there and just do my own thing, whether it's a new spot or one I've been to a million times.
You don't have to twist Maddie's arm to get her to go to a lounge to smoke. Right?
No.
You know, like,
And Lou, that lounge doesn't exist. It's a hypothetical. I mean, as far as I know, it's a hypothetical. So there could be one where we lick each other's faces, but I haven't been to that one yet.
there's probably one in Las Vegas.
There probably is one. I don't know.
There's probably one in Vegas. It's not
I don't
one.
know.
Now you gave me an idea for the next time I go to Vegas. I am going to be on the lookout for that lounge.
Well, there's one called Chocolate City in Vegas, so I haven't been to that one yet.
I haven't either. I kind of have the lounges I like in Vegas that I just go to. I'm not really interested in trying to find new lounges where I'm going to get my face licked.
Oh no! He said licks and sticks. That's actually genius. I love going to Tap and Ash. That's one of my favorites. And the cigar box.
Tap and Ash is my favorite lounge.
Yeah.
I put it up there. Overall lounges across this country I've been to, top three lounges in this entire country.
Yeah, Melvin and Michelle are amazing. They've got a great vibe going on there, great cigar selection. And I also like that it's not stuffy or over the top to where you feel like you have to actually be overly dressed to actually fit in,
Well, I go there and we've all seen what I wear, so.
Yeah. And they also have good prices, with their, when you use the bracelet and you get your drinks. Because to me, like, for example, going to 8, yes, people go to 8, especially during the trade show, because everybody at least makes an appearance there. But to me, the drinks, the service, the seating is all so uncomfortable, that's not the place I would choose to go to actually enjoy a cigar. It's more like I need to be seen, and I don't care whether I'm seen or not. I'm around the people that I want to be around, you know?
I was turned off by 8 the second time I went there. I was already annoyed the first time, but the second time I went there and I sat down and they go, "You can't sit there." And I go, "Well, why?" "That table's reserved." I go, "Okay, well, when they show up, I'll move." "Nope, nobody can sit at this table because it's reserved. And whether they show up or not, it has to stay empty." And I'm like, "Well, that's stupid. If they show up, I'll move." But okay,
Well,
that turned
and
me
they charge,
off right there.
and their prices, they charge like $5 for a bottle of ice, $35 for an
Oh
old
yeah,
fashioned. I mean,
it's
to me, I'm like, you're actually like kind of, in my opinion, kind of milk. I mean, I know what it is for. It's for a certain clientele, and that's fine, you know. But if you're just there in Vegas just to grab a cigar and have a good time with great conversation over a good cigar, that's not the place for most people.
no. You can walk down the hallway to Gatsby's and bring your own sticks and get way cheaper drinks and have a way better time because it's not
Yeah.
that. The last, so 2023 at PCA, Carlito Fuente was having an event at 8. And so I showed up and I'm hanging out over there. They kicked Carlito out from the area that they had it at because some very rich people wanted to sit in that area. And so they told Carlito to hit the bricks. And I'm like, you realize who this man is? And you really, that means more to you than somebody like him who has a lot of power. You're just going to boot him out because somebody wants to sit in this area that has money? Okay.
Big mistake. Like Pretty Woman, big mistake, big.
Yeah, I'm just like, that to me, if that was my lounge and somebody like him was having an event there, man, he'd stay as long as I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really, it's not. I don't like going there, and I make it a point, like you said, unless I need to be seen or there's an event going on that is there that you have to be at. You're not going to catch me there. I'm just not interested. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything about it's just trash.
Yeah, it's we could definitely do better. So and as you know, everywhere that you go, you're going to find the lounges that suit you or don't. And I have people ask me sometimes about like, how do you pick a lounge? And I'm like, you kind of have to do a hit or miss. You can do your research ahead of time, but you'll find a vibe that actually suits you. And to me, it's always different, right? So if I'm going to go hang out with my homies, I might pick a more casual lounge that I'm familiar with. If I actually want to explore, which I do all the time, as a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to a lounge with my husband that recently opened up here in Arizona called 24th Street. I think it's 24th Street Tobacco Lounge or something like that. And they're pretty new here. I looked it up online, but of course, until you go in person, you're not going to know. And if you want somewhere that's, more upscale, if you want to do more like a date night type situation, then you're going to actually look for a different situation or a different lounge to go to or bar. And as you know, a lot of lounges have become more bars with cigars. Mm-hmm. So then there's that other thing. Do you want to go somewhere where they have like low, comfortable music where you can have a decent conversation? Or do you want to go somewhere where they have, a DJ and it's like, party time? It just depends.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're looking for out there. But at that, regardless of what you're looking for, when you go to a city like Vegas, you'll find what you want. And if you're in your hometown, you may be limited on what's available to you. Like I'm limited on what's available to me up here. And so if I'm looking for something specific, I got to travel to get it, to go and find it and get it. And, that's just, but it doesn't deter me because if I want it, I'm going to get it, and I'll find it if I want it. And, so.
And smoking in the garage sometimes is perfectly fine by me. There's plenty of days where I smoke in the garage or in my back porch. and I'm happy as a clam. I've got my cigar. I've got my, my true crime is one of my favorite things. I might be listening to true crime. If my husband's with me, he might be like the other day, he walked out on me on the patio, and of course he heard like her tongue was missing, her eyes were poked out, she was missing her legs, and he's just like, "What the hell are you listening to?" And I'm like, He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm relaxing." "You're relaxing?" I was like, you know me by now. I'm taking notes. Mind your business.
Hear nothing, see nothing, say nothing.
Oh, Anya knows, right? Anya and Lola know. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think so. So, at where you're at now within the education process, I think I know the answer to this, but are you where you felt you would be at this point, or higher, lower?
You know what? I have learned that I had to kind of okay, so let me put it this way. Sometimes the prayers that we make are not the ones that are meant to be answered, in my opinion, right? Because at one point, I really, really wanted to be a broker, and I was dreaming of a job as a sales rep. And for a couple of reasons. One, because I love it. I love visiting different lounges. If I believe in a brand, I love going to different lounges. And to be honest with you, it was amazing after once upon a time not being able to smoke in a cigar lounge, to go to any damn lounge in the state of Arizona and represent a cigar brand and walk in there confident and try to promote my cigar, was such a great feeling. It was so empowering, but it was also, in a way, validating for me personal, not based on anybody else. And if I could make money doing it, great. But I think what people don't understand is, like I mentioned in the beginning, cigar brokers don't make that kind of money. The dedication is 100%. Like, you have to do cut-and lights. You have to actually travel. If somebody from the brand is coming in town, you have to basically escort them everywhere, pick them up at the airport, take them to their hotel room, take them to the different lounges, introduce them to people. Sometimes events are like 8 and 10 hours long, and you're there, and you're not paid. And with the brands I work with, I wasn't paid extra to do that. So people be like, "Oh, you're so lucky you're getting paid to be here." And I'm like, no, this 10 hours was because I represent the brand. Like, I didn't get paid to be here. Like, this is my time has been a donation to help promote this brand until I can open the account. And that to me was just so challenging. So to go back to your original question, I had honestly foreseen myself being a sales rep for a big brand. I did have a brand that I love, love, love approach me and ask me to be their rep in Arizona. But one of the things that came into part of it was I needed to have the time to do it. And doing my class and personal situations going on with my family. My husband's having back surgery. I got other things going on. I couldn't dedicate 100% of the time like I wanted to.
Understand.
Yeah.
So
this has been a second plan for me.
I think
so now I had to do a pivot. So to me, the pivot was doing classes. 115 degrees for 3 months in a row completely suffocated my cigar education classes. All the lounges and groups that wanted to do a class with me were like, "Maddie, we don't have any outside space that can accommodate people, and it's too damn hot." And so then I started doing, I did a few private events, and then I started doing cigar accessories for men and women, customizing them. And then I would do like some, basic events. Like, I supported Charlotte Cigar Week. I indirectly supported a couple events, of course, attended the PCA. So, I'm still kind of learning where my place is in the cigar industry, if you will. I love supporting women in the PCA, of course. I'm part of the Cigar Lounge International and the Light 'em Up Cigar Lounge and Women's International Cigar Club. And the main reason I'm doing that is not to actually get like little ribbons to, put up on my wall. It's basically, I think, an important part of our growing our culture and industry is for us to understand other people's experience. And I have moved 20 times in my life. I think I have the benefit of I've lived overseas and stateside. And honestly, in those 20 times that I've moved, I've actually learned I'm like a chameleon. I integrate to wherever I'm at. And I think it's important and valuable for us to understand the experience from someone else's point of view. So what I mean by that is people in Europe have a different smoking experience than we do here in the States. Different states have a different experience. Our culture in Arizona is completely different than the one in Atlanta. You know what I mean? And and so being part of those groups, I think, is, in my small way, is a way to kind of help bridge the gap and actually give them part of my experience, but learn from their experience as well. So I think it's an important, you know, it's an important thing for us to build those relationships and actually be open-minded enough to learn from other people and, you know, kind of give them our experience so that we can actually continue to grow as an industry.
I think that's a great way to look at it. I think you've found your spot in the community where you're at. I think you do a good job at what you do. I think the education is important. The fact that people really want to learn and whether they want to be part of the culture or whether they just don't want to, they don't want to look stupid, I guess is a way to put it, when they're out and about. Yeah. But having that understanding, I think you've provided that to us. So I think you found your niche where you're supposed to be within the industry.
Oh, thank you. You know, one of the things about the classes that I think I love is I know for a fact, as we've touched on several times in this conversation, is that sometimes people are intimidated by other people. You know, people are kind of sending their, especially I found some of the men I've spoken with are kind of seem embarrassed, if that's the right word, to ask any questions. But when they attend my class, I make it a safe space. And I tell them ahead of time, like, look, no question is a dumb question. We all learn the hard way. And I'll tell you honestly, I'll tell them about some of my goofs, about some of my mistakes. I told them about my retrohale thing. I was just like, I'm not better than anybody else that's smoking here. Just because I'm putting this class together, I'm just letting you know, I'm just like you guys. I'm just in a different part of my journey than you are. And that's fine. You know, whether you've been smoking for 1 year, 1 day, you know, or, 10 years, we all have to actually go on this journey, and it's a very personal one. And I am proud of the fact that I can actually create a space where I open it up to conversation and questions. I give everybody index cards in the beginning of the class, and I ask them to hold their questions to the end. But sometimes when I'm talking, I know questions might come up. So I ask them to write it on the index card I've provided. And so I collect them all, and then I answer the questions so that nobody knows who asked the question. Because I think it's important for people to feel like if I ask a question, they might think I'm dumb, or somebody might like kind of tease me. And I mean, I've got kind of a thick skin over everything I've dealt with in my life, so it wouldn't bother me. But some people do feel a little intimidated, a little bit, uncomfortable with, being the one that's pointed out to ask a question that might kind of seem silly or noob-like.
I could see that coming from a newer smoker's perspective. You don't want to sound dumb, or you don't want to ask a question that people may laugh at. But if you have that question, it's highly likely other people have that same question or are thinking the same thing as you. So I agree. There is no dumb question out there. It's
right.
Just,
100%.
I think that it's important to ask that question because we all learn, and that's one way we learn is by asking questions. And
absolutely.
I think that you found that niche on where you're supposed to be. I really do.
Oh, thank you. I feel good about it, and I'm excited to provide it online. So I'm firming up the date now with some details because the location is important for me because as you see today, the logistics and having my phone glitch up is not acceptable. So I need to make sure that I have it set up in a way to where my phone is not going to overheat and it's going to be awkward. And hopefully I'll be able to reach a wider audience. My class is only $20. So I want to make sure that it's fair for people. So it's about the price of maybe a cigar and a drink. I had a lady, she's offering she went to my education class and she decided that she was going to copy my idea, which is fine, whatever. But you can copy the recipe, but the sauce won't taste the same.
Exactly.
And she's charging $50. Oh, thank you. Well, she's charging $50, and she got really annoyed and was just like, "Well, how is it you're offering this class so inexpensive?" And I'm like, "Well, it's mainly I'm asking for the money for my time. You know what I mean? For my time, and actually, I also provide the cigars, the cutters, the lighters, the butane and everything like that. I have to travel there and everything like that. So, I'm not trying to rip anybody off. I'm trying to actually provide a service, and so I think that that's a fair price. Some people pay more than that for just one cigar, and so when I go to a lounge, they might charge like 35, but they'll include I include my cigar journal that I made. I include a copy of that, and then they usually offer the cigar and a cocktail, so they'll have like two different cocktails to pick from. So for $35, it's a class, a cigar, a cocktail, and a journal. And I think that that's my way of saying I'm giving back, but I'm also trying to make a living here.
Yeah, I think that's great. So if you're interested in class, make sure you're following her. Down in the description, I've got links to everything, Maddie, so you can keep
Thank
in
you.
contact on what she's got going on when she's offering classes. If you're in the Phoenix area, which lounges she'll be at doing a physical class, and when she'll be doing her virtual classes, so you can get involved in that.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Before we end out the show here, I'll hand it to you to promote anything you'd like to promote or talk about.
I do want to mention something. I know that we touched on mental health. Mental health is one of the big things that I know that we had mentioned in the past, Daniel, we discussed. And I do live with depression. I know that previously, when I was younger, I know that we grew up in a time where we couldn't talk about stuff like everything was like the proverbial elephant in the room, right? We couldn't talk about depression, anxiety, anything that was going wrong in our lives. What went on in the house stayed in the house. And so I think now, as I've gotten older and I've gotten to that certain time, I've actually learned to destigmatize for myself the stigma that I had. I lived with so much shame about living with depression. And I also I'm a domestic violence survivor. And so for a long time, I also lived with that shame as well. I got to a point, which I had mentioned to you before. Um, I'm a suicide survivor. About 12 years ago, I was in a very, very dark and ugly place, and I felt that I was doing everyone a favor by not being here anymore. And thank God I didn't succeed. But I do talk about that because September is actually Suicide Awareness Month. I am a veteran, and as you have probably heard, 22 veterans a day
Every 20
do commit. Commit suicide. I do have PTSD and depression, and I'm absolutely triggered from situations from my domestic violence situation. So once upon a time, I was so crippled with shame about it, but I think it's very important, even though it might be slightly embarrassing to share with people, because people don't realize that we might be here on social media, but there's also different dimensions of us as humans. And I think it's important for people to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there's hope, and that I can actually be an example of someone that's actually been able to fight those demons and actually come out the other side. And some days may be a little bit more challenging than others, but I continue to put one foot in front of the other. Cigars has been a big therapy for me. The cigar community, the people that I've met on my journey, have also been a big help in actually giving me the strength to be the silly, goofy human that smokes cigars in front of you.
Yes, and I agree, and I think it's important, and I think that we regardless of where we are at in our life, or we've all gone through something that has pushed us to that edge, whether we've thought about it or we've potentially tried to act on it. It's there, but nobody's alone on that journey, because we've all been there, and we've all, whether somebody's talked you out of walking off that plank or whether you've talked somebody off of walking off that plank. I think it's important that we continue to shed lights on the fact that there are people out there who are severely suffering, and just be nice to people. Quit being an asshole.
Well, yeah, and it's okay not to be okay. Just
It's okay not to be okay.
yeah, and do what you need to for yourself. So if it means you skip out on going to an event and you sit on the back porch and have a cigar, you do you. And I think for the longest time, I actually bowed to the pressures of doing what other people wanted me to do. And sometimes you just have to actually realize that prioritizing your mental health, at, you know, there's no price on your peace, right? You can't put a price tag on that.
There is no price on that piece, you know. And
Yeah.
I remember going through my divorce, 19 years ago, and where I was at that place, where I honestly felt like I was worthless and that everything was my fault, and sitting there contemplating all my life, and it took me really a long time to get out of that dark place because I didn't have anybody that I felt could understand me and where I was at. The cigar community isn't what it is today with people who have gone through these similar experiences on that. And, sitting in my truck, putting a gun to my head, wasn't going to solve the answer,
Right.
Because, having that gun jam, who knows why it jammed, but it jammed, and it was enough for me to really kind of seek the help out there that I needed, that I was embarrassed to go out and find.
And I'm so proud of you, but I got to tell you, Daniel, I think that part of the challenge that we have with people like us, and there's, I'm sure many other people out there like us, is that, when you get to the time that you feel that the world will be better off without you, part of it is from society putting the stigma, especially on men. And listen, as a mother of two boys, I've got two boys and two girls. I will say this. We were all told the lie that little boys had to dust themselves off. They had to shake it off. They had to put on their big boy pants. They had to not let anybody see them cry. And by doing all that, we actually stunted boys that became into men into feeling comfortable with showing their emotions. And then we have the audacity as a society, as a global community, to expect men to be empathetic and sympathetic partners and humans. So to me, as you can see, I'm very passionate about changing and breaking those stereotypes and, allowing people to be human regardless of gender. And if a man needs to cry, then a man needs to cry. And if a man needs to help, that there's no stigma associated with that. And that should be for anybody, all humans. It's just the right for all of us to be able to communicate our needs, to be able to open up and be honest, and actually find the tribe that's actually willing to give us that support when we need it. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you for actually articulating that.
It took me a long time, and I also grew up very uncomfortable in my own skin, growing up really being the only white person in town and dealing with that on top of everything else. And it took me a long time to really be comfortable with me. And even today at 42 years old, almost 42 years old, I'm still not comfortable in my own skin a lot of the times. But I make the best of it because, like you said, the tribe of people I choose to surround myself with don't make me feel like I'm not good. They make me feel like I am a good person and I am accepted, and it doesn't matter because you're a good person in general, and I choose to surround myself with those types of people that make me feel good as a person, and I hope as a friend and as a person in their life, I do the same thing too, and I hope that I encourage them as much as they encourage me.
Absolutely. I absolutely had a great time on our chat. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. I love you. I think you're the bomb diggity.
I say only those of us who grew up in the 90s understand bomb diggity.
Well, it's a compliment.
It is. It's one of the highest compliments you can give to somebody is the bomb diggity out there. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. Remember, everybody, down in the description, I have got links to everything Maddie. So go follow her on all social media platforms out there. I've made it really easy for you to follow.
I
So if you're
appreciate you.
interested in taking her classes again, make sure you're following her because she'll be posting about where her physical classes will be in the Phoenix area, along with when she's operating on her virtual classes out there. Next week, next Monday night, got the handsome devil himself, Brian Matolo from Cavalier Cigars, will be our guest. Next week.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to talking to that man with the sexy beard. So that will be a fun show. So I hope you all tune in for that one. He is a great dude and years and years and years of experience in what him and Sebastian are doing over at Cavalier is amazing. And of course, and we'll be back Tuesday night. Brandy and I will be back Tuesday night for live raw cigar reviews over on my IG Live. We've got Sam from Maddie Cigars, who will be joining us. Fairly new brand, but should be a fun time. I'm really looking forward to smoking these cigars. They look fantastic on that. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much, chat. You guys crush it like you usually do. I appreciate you all for hanging out. So take care. Be safe out there. Don't do anything Maddie and I wouldn't do because we're sweet and innocent boys and girls. We will see you later.